Hello students, I am Professor Isha Nadirata from LG Institute of Engineering and Technology. Today, I am going to start with the second chapter of our syllabus, that is electronic materials. Weightage of the chapter according to GTU syllabus is 22%, and in today's particular video, I will be discussing the basic electrical terms and the free electron theory. So I will be briefing you about the free electron theory as well. So let's start with the basic electrical terms first, starting with the first term, that is Ohm's law. You all know what exactly Ohm's law is. It is very commonly known as V is equals to IR. So if you want to define Ohm's law, we can define it as at a constant temperature and pressure, the current flowing across 2 points is directly proportional to the potential difference across these 2 points. What I'm trying to say is I is proportional to V. If you want to remove this proportionality sign, we should introduce a proportionality constant and we get I is equals to V by R, where R is known as the resistance, that is the proportionality constant. And hence we get the common and the very well-known equation V is equals to IR. Let's see what next is resistance. What do you mean by resistance? Resistance is a very basic, you can say a fundamental property of any material. It is known as the property which opposes the flow of electric current. Resistance is a property which depends on length of conductor, it depends on cross-sectional area of conductor, it depends on temperature, and it depends on nature of material. The temperature dependence of resistance is what we have studied in the chapter superconductivity. We all know that resistance will increase if temperature increases. The relation between resistance and length in area is given by this common equation R proportional to L by A. That is, you say resistance is directly proportional to length and inversely proportional to area of the conductor. Again, we introduce a proportionality constant here, which is denoted by rho, and we call it resistivity of the material. Unit is ohm meter. Inverse of this resistivity is known as conductivity, which is denoted by sigma. So we just modify this equation as R is equals to L by sigma A. Let us discuss what current is. Current is known as the flow of electric charge, and it is defined as electric charge per time. The equation is I is equals to Q by T. Unit of current is ampere. How do you define 1 ampere? 1 ampere is defined as if 1 coulomb charge flows across 2 points in 1 second, we say that 1 ampere current has flown across these 2 points. Next comes current density. What is current density? It is denoted by capital letter J. Current density is defined as current per unit area. So suppose you have a conductor, there is a flow of electrons as shown here as the current flowing, that is the flow of electric current with respect to area. Current density is a vector quantity. That means it has a direction also. What is the direction of current density? It is always perpendicular to the flow of electric current. Next comes electric field. Now, electric field can be explained by 1 or 2 different ways. A very common method to explain electric field is, it is the area surrounding a charged body. But the definition we are going to discuss in this particular chapter is based on this diagram. You can see in the diagram that the upper plate is positively charged, that is, it is at a higher potential, and the lower plate or the lower part is negatively charged. What does that mean? It is at a lower potential. How does current flow? It always flows from positive to negative. So, during this flow, what happens? When the electrons try to flow from positive to negative, there is some resistance in between. To overcome the resistance, they lose some energy. So I can say that from the upper to the lower portion, if the electrons are moving, the potential or the energy is dropping. So this potential drop across the path where they have moved is what is electric field. And you define electric field as voltage, that is the potential with respect to the distance. Next comes electrical conductivity. If I say resistance is the property to oppose electric current, I will say electrical conductivity, which easily allows the flow of current. So this is the basic definition of electrical conductivity. Let's see next. Here, there is an electric field shown here. So electric field is pointing in one direction. You can see in the diagram that positive charges are moving in the direction of electric field and the negative is always moving in the direction of applied electric field. And there is a relation between current density and conductivity as J is equals to sigma E. So we get the equation sigma, that is electrical conductivity, is defined as J by E. Or you can say electrical conductivity is defined as flow of electrical charge per unit area per unit potential gradient. Because E is known as the potential gradient or the potential drop. So this is how we define electrical conductivity. Unit of electrical conductivity is mho meter inverse. Next we have drift velocity. Now the definitions from here which I am going to discuss are based on free electron theory. I will be discussing in the later part of video what free electron theory is. What do you mean by the word drift? Drift means a motion in the presence of some external force. Just look at the diagram. There is an applied electric field in this direction. You can see the electric field always points from plus, that is positive terminal, to the negative terminal. And in the diagram it is very clearly shown that electrons, because of this electric field, are moving in a direction opposite to the electric field. So electric field is pointing like this, electrons are moving in the opposite direction. Or I can say the electrons are being drifted in the direction opposite to the electric field. So hence I define drift velocity as the average velocity which is acquired by electrons due to this applied electric field. We can say Vd is equals to L by T, where Vd denotes the drift velocity, L is the distance the electrons travel, and T is the time taken. So it's a basic definition of velocity. Unit is meter per second. Next is a term called mobility, which we define by mu. What is mobility? It is the drift velocity acquired by electrons in the presence of electric field. Or I define mu, that is mobility, as Vd. How much velocity they have acquired with respect to the applied electric field. So we get the equation mu is equals to Vd by E. This is a term we say relaxation time, denoted by tau. What is relaxation time? Before the electric field was applied, the electrons were randomly moving. Now when the electric field is applied, they are drifted to opposite direction. So relaxation time means they are getting disturbed. They start moving in the opposite direction and then they align in one particular position. So this time duration from the disturbed position to the relaxed position is what is relaxation time. Let's see what relaxation time is. It is a time taken by electrons to attain a velocity that is 1 upon E times the original velocity. Original velocity was higher because they were disturbed. Now they align in one particular position, so we say the velocity reduces. So this time taken is what is known as relaxation time. We have a term called mean collision time. What is mean collision time? It is the average time between two successive collisions. Now when they try to align, when the electrons try to align in a direction, they try to move opposite to electric field, so they collide with each other. The average time between these collisions is what is mean collision time. The last definition which we are going to discuss is mean free path. Path here means distance. So we are talking about the average distance which electrons travel between two successive collisions. It is denoted as lambda. Because it is distance, we denote in meters, rather nanometers. Now, let us discuss a small relation between electrical conductivity and mobility. It's a basic derivation between sigma and mu. Suppose we consider that number of charge carriers in any conductor is n per unit volume. That means the charge carrier density is n, L is the length of conductor, A is the cross-sectional area of conductor. Then we can say that current, we define current as the total charge upon time, and hence we get I, that is current is equals to NEAL by T. Now here L by T I can write as drift velocity Vd. But we know that J is defined as I by A. So dividing with respect to area, we get the equation of J as NEVD. But we know that J is also equal to sigma E. So I compare both the equations of J and I get the relation sigma E is equals to NEVD. Now you know that drift velocity with respect to electric field, that is Vd by E in this equation, is nu, and hence you get the relation sigma is equals to Ne mu. Now this is a particular relation which will be very useful while solving numericals of this chapter. So this was just a recap of the electrical terms which we have already studied. Now let us move on to the next part of today's video, that is free electron theory. This is a theory. Let's see what free electron theory is. So free electron theory is defined as the study of electrons, valence electrons present in a band which control various properties of metals. What do you mean by valence electrons? They are the electrons which are present in the outermost orbit of an atom. So we can say that attraction of valence electrons from the nucleus is very less, and that is the reason if you give energy, they can easily become free electrons. So studying how these valence electrons behaves, this is what free electron theory is. Now let us move on to the types of free electron theories. The first theory was named as classical free electron theory. It was proposed in the year 1900 and it was proposed by two physicists, Lorentz and Drude. Next theory. Now the classical free electron theory had some disadvantages which were rectified 28 years later by Sommerfeld, that is in the year 1928, when he proposed the quantum free electron theory. The quantum free electron theory uses the concept that electrons have wave nature and electrons, when they move across the lattice, they move in a fixed potential. This theory solved many issues or problems which were with the classical free electron theory, but this theory also failed because it had some disadvantages. So then, in the same year, another theory was proposed, which is known as the band theory of solids. It was proposed by Bloch in the same year, 1928. And after this theory, we were able to classify what exactly the materials are, how they behave as metals, conductors, and insulators. If you talk about these theories, each and every theory is one big chapter. But what we have in our syllabus is only the classical free electron theory, and we will be discussing the basics of classical free electron theory today. So let's start with classical free electron theory. I will be starting with assumptions. Now, what did Drude and Lorentz assume before they proposed this theory? The first assumption is they assume that a solid metal has a nucleus which has revolving electrons, and they assumed that these electrons behave like molecules of a gas. If you compare it with a gas, now gas molecules randomly are always in motion. They are scattered and they move randomly. So this was the assumption that in a metal also electrons behave like gas molecules. Electrons move in random direction when no electric field is present. So the assumption was that if electric field is not applied, the electrons will move in random direction. What happens in this random moving in random direction? They will collide with each other. And all such collisions are elastic in nature. What does that mean? It means when there is a collision between two electrons, the energy released will be transferred to the other one because energy can never be destroyed. And hence the collisions are elastic in nature. Next assumption was they obey all the laws of kinetic theory of gases. The kinetic theory of gases says that gas molecules do not attract each other. They do not attract to the walls of container because if they attract the walls of container, there will be no collision. It also says that all collisions are elastic. Next is, in the presence of electric field, electrons align in a direction which is opposite to electric field. And the last assumption is they obey Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics. This is a topic which we are going to study in the later part of the chapter, but as of now, Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics discusses about energy levels and how these energy levels are occupied by electrons. You can say the availability of occupancy is what is Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics. Moving on to the success points of this theory. The first success point of classical free electron theory is that it verifies Ohm's law. Based on the theory, we say that J is equals to sigma E. So if you start from J is equals to sigma E, you can come down to V is equals to IR. That is, it verifies Ohm's law. Next, this law explains the electrical conductivity of metals. It also explains thermal conductivity of metals. If you talk about metals or conductors, they are good conductors of electricity as well as heat. If they carry electricity, they can also carry heat from a higher to a lower temperature. Last one is, this particular theory verifies Weidemann-Franz law. Now what is this Weidemann-Franz law? It explains the relation between electrical and thermal conductivity. That is also a part of our syllabus and we'll be discussing it later. Now let us discuss what were the drawbacks of this theory. What were the drawbacks which led to the failure of this theory 28 years later when the theory was proposed. So starting with the first one, this theory cannot explain the photoelectric effect, black body radiation and Compton effect. Why? Because all these effects deal with wave nature of electrons. Photoelectric effect is absorption of photons, that is light, and conversion into electricity. Black body radiation is a concept in which all the energy is absorbed. There is no reflection, 100% absorption. Example is a black hole. And then you have Compton effect, which deals with scattering of radiation like X-ray. Then, this cannot explain electrical conductivities of semiconductors and insulators. Why? Because Drude and Lorentz they assumed that metals are the materials which have free electrons. So there was no concept like semiconductors and insulators. They only dealt with metals wherein they assumed that metals have electrons like gas molecules. Ferromagnetism could not be explained with the help of this theory because ferromagnetism deals with parallel dipoles and their assumption was that electrons randomly move. So there was no concept of parallel dipoles and hence ferromagnetism was not explained. Then we have Weidemann-Franz law. It does not hold true at low temperatures because this law deals with thermal and electrical conductivity, and when you deal with very low temperatures, both the conductivities vary differently. Lastly, we have paramagnetic susceptibility value and specific heat value of certain materials. When the experimental value based on this theory were compared with the actual values, there was a mismatch. So these are some drawbacks which led to the failure of classical free electron theory. So today we have discussed the basic terms. We have also discussed what exactly is the free electron theory and particularly classical free electron theory. I will be discussing about derivation of electrical and thermal conductivity, Weidemann-Franz law, and how energy bands are formed in my coming video. Hope you have understood all the topics that I have covered today. So we'll be starting with the next topics in the coming video. Till then, take care. Thank you.